Hey, hey you. Do you want to feel so awesome? Play Exalted. So, hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome to the Tomodachi Bros podcast, season 3. We are joined once again by brothers Pooghym, Dietaku, and Noodle.
Hello, everyone.
I am a chosen of Luna. I am, in fact, a sword of Luna. Frickin' kill me some fair folk.
That's fair. You know, anything that involves killing Fae, I am down for.
Just walk up to them and they're like, I use my power of shaping. I'm like, well, verisimilitude. And then they just die.
And I am the head of the Celestial Stables. I hear that's a very, very auspicious title.
Oh, it is. It absolutely is. You won't believe the crap you get up into your elbows into.
The narrator, this next part will surprise him.
That's a Journey to the West reference, people.
That is a Journey to the West reference.
It sure is.
I am talking now about Exalted, which is my favorite tabletop game. And the reason why I bring this up is because, well, you can blame Papa Pooghym for this one because he was watching The Adventures of Vox Machina Season 4 a couple of weeks ago, actually, now. And I just was like, I cannot stand modern D&D. Old D&D was cool.
3X forever.
Well, I mean, I'd argue that like really anything like I think 4th edition really like ruined it for me, because it kind of normified pretty much everything. But that being said, I want to kind of not only explain what Exalted is, but also kind of explain my history with it, because I was looking at it, I'm like, oh my god, I've been playing this game for almost 20 years now. Holy cow. And this you can all blame, the fact that, well, if you're not familiar, the Pooghym clan is actually pretty ginormous, shall we say. There's at least 7 main models of Pooghym, but really what's going on here is that there is Pooghym sister Ichigo, shall we say. And much like Kamen Rider Ichigo, she unfortunately had a major vehicular situation, which unfortunately left her in the hospital for a while. It's all right. Don't worry your little heads about it, boys and girls, little Jimmy. It's okay. This is well in the past. Not only is she, alive and well, and she is like has her own, business, and she's doing well. So it's you don't worry your little heads about her. But at that moment, there was a lot of times where you can imagine, little Dietaku and little Noodle there with a little, sister Pooghym Ichigo. And here's the funny thing. This is the comedy. Mama Pooghym was like, all right, now the 3 of you, all introverts, interact with each other. And we all looked at each other and we're like, okay.
But why?
And so after about a week of this, we basically found every excuse, like, okay, so good talk, all right. And so we go into the basically the main waiting room. And the reason we do this is because there was a computer. And while you see, back then I used to play a lot of Warhammer, and I also used to frequent a underwater basket weaving site. I don't really frequent them much anymore. It's kind of gotten a pretty normie. But so I looked there just for Warhammer stuff mainly. And while I was there, I found this really amusing macro, and I'm going to read it right now for you guys, so you can understand really how I first got introduced to Exalted. You, hey you, do you want to feel so awesome? Play Exalted. Amazing game for players who need gratuitous amounts of awesome. Fill up a character sheet and be a solar hero style. You'll punch people so far, they'll be asking for directions to fair folk. Another wild hunt because you just wasted the last one. What's that? You want rage? How about lunars? They kill people with their bare hands. Combat. They're good at it. Get relentless lunar fury and you'll be unstoppable. Unbearable. These aren't your mentor's puns. These are essence puns. Motonic puns. Magitech, Genesis, fire, air, wood, earth, water. More craft skills than your character sheet has room for. You'll craft so much, the unconquered sun will be like, slow down. And you'll be like, F you, and kick him in the face with your War Strider boots. You'll have so much essence, just stunting all the time. Power stunting, power fighting, power socialing, power planning, power casting, power questing, power summoning demons. You'll have so many demons, 400 demons. Get lots and lots of backgrounds, and you'll have huge people. Make your people fight mass combat. They'll fight as hard as the realm. People will fight them, will watch them fighting, and they'll think they're the realm. They'll fight as well as the realm in a battle against the realm, and it'll be a tie, and they'll be deported back to the Blessed Isle. Go with the sure thing. Don't gamble with your role-playing. Botched. Try Exalted, a game that will make you awesome. And for those of you who are older, will recognize that that's basically just a slight tweaking of the Power Thirst, joke video. I didn't know that at the time. It was actually many years before I learned that. But probably the funniest thing about that is for the then current Exalted game, that's really not that much of a hyperbole. That's pretty much how second edition Exalted is. Speaking from experience, you can actually have more crafting than your character sheet will have room for. In fact, a couple of our crafters that we had in our circles basically had to have second character sheets just to account for all their additional crafting abilities. That was basically where Noodle and I, because I saw this, I showed it to him. He thought it was cool. And we basically immediately, we didn't buy the books immediately. We actually waited a little bit, and then we basically frequented half-price books until we got all the books. I, in fact, actually have pretty much every single book in second edition. And, well, most of them. I think I'm missing Dreams of the First Age. And I want to say Shards of Infinity. But as much as I like Gunstar Autochthonia, I don't really feel like that one's necessary.
It's an alternate setting source book.
Anyways, I guess you'll be wondering, going Dietaku, that's great and all, but what is Exalted? Well, little Jimmy, boys and girls, chillins, sit down. We're going to talk about a alternate world. Because that's the beautiful thing about Exalted. Unlike in Dungeons & Dragons, which basically is just like, yes, it's basically like Elric and Lord of the Rings. That's it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Exalted basically builds its own world. And imagine this, if you will. There are this band of, they don't really go into how many of them. There's at least 20 of these beings. Just basically think of them as Cthulhu. But they're basically they're simultaneously people and also places. And they are made of, basically they have people who are also cities who are also people. And then those people are then made out of people who are also, it's basically like a giant pyramid of things. So you have 20 or so of these Cthulhu pyramids. Okay, you're with me? You're with me. These are the Titans. All right, these are very important beings. And so they're just sitting in cosmic nothingness going, this nothingness is kind of boring. And so depending on who you ask, either they start fighting each other or they start to build something around them. This something basically starts to be what we now know as creation. Creation is the world. And it is not like an actual sphere. It's basically just a flat plane. And so they put what are called the elemental poles in order to denote what is the actual limits of what is and what isn't. And that's also important because there's another member of these Titans he's a weird boy who basically his entire thing is like, I denote what is the boundary between that which is and that which is not. Ooh, I'm deep and metaphorical and not really well established, because then that would require people who don't really have philosophy degrees to explain philosophy of epistemology, and we're not going to go there. Thanks, Aramis. You really don't belong in Exalted, but it's okay. And everything's fine. But they get bored very quickly of having to basically personally go, okay, now we're going to move the sun. Now we're going to make the trees grow. Now we're going to, make sure that, fire has smoke and the smoke goes up. And so instead, they actually create a servitor class of beings called gods. And to manage them all, they basically create the sun, the moon, and 5 major stars who are going to govern lesser stars, because there's at least 365 other stars. And I'm not going to go into that. I'll let Noodle get into that because he knows the sidereal celestial bureaucracy better than I do. So cue a time, everything's going well. And after also creating little beings to effectively be like bees, which will feed the Titans honey of prayer, so that they don't actually have to go into the vast extra additional nothingness and soak up, basically the raw magic breath of the universe, and they can just feed off of prayer. The gods go, working eternally without thanks or days off kind of sucks. At which point the weak, handicapped, cancer patient, leukemia kid proceeds to go, the Titans goes, I heard you guys complaining. And they're like, oh crap, please don't kill us. And he's like, no, fam, it's all right. I want to help. And so depending on what edition you ask, he either gives them ultimate weapons or some kind of procedure. And what does this do? Well, you see, the Titans were actually pretty smart. They made all of the major gods. These are beings who are so powerful that they can basically control fundamental aspects of reality, and made them swear oaths, these magic promises, that they would never, ever, even unintentionally be able to hurt the Titans. So ultimately, even though the major gods wanted to rebel, they couldn't actually do anything against the Titans themselves. Oh, they could nuke the snot out of their servitor races or, their created beings, because in addition to the actual people or the dragon kings or the other magical races that they created, the Titans also had this, annoying tendency of creating Godzillas or other giant monsters that they're like, oh yeah, it's Gamera, he's my little boy, I like him, go stop the humans, I think it's funny. And they could nuke them, but they couldn't do anything against the Titans. And the Titans could just be like, power word die on the Incarnate. They basically had the admin controls to what the Incarnate could do. and could like instantly just kill them. So this is a very impossible battle. But Autochthon, this Prometheus / Hephaestus, like incredibly weak, crippled Titan, goes, what if we could have a weapon that could turn a human from just a little guy who, like, you break one of his arms and he dies, and make him into a god-killing badass? And the gods go, okay, that'd be cool. And they're like, no, it's not a theory. This is a thing I can do. And so they give them the power of exaltation. And the entire thing with exaltation is you take someone, depending on who it is, depending on the patron, you take a mortal. And here's the thing, only humans can be exalted. As stated, there are other like human-esque races out there, not nearly as many in the quote-unquote current period, because the Exalted were very thorough as to taking out those which did not go along with human agenda. But only humans can be exalted, much to the Lintha's eternal chagrin, because the Lintha definitely would want to have exaltations in order to stop getting killed. Lintha, they're like the Dark Eldar. They just can't catch. They can't stop catching elves, so to speak. And where was I? Exalted. Yes. And so basically each deity takes some of these exaltations and then proceeds to divvy them out to people, depending on various criteria. For the sun, the unconquered sun, who is this eternal, supernal, just awesome dude, he decides to take equally awesome people. You had to just have a moment of supreme awesomeness in order to become a solar. This has changed in the 3rd edition because they have to muddy the waters. I don't like that. So there, that's the way I'm going to explain it to you guys. You just have to have a singular moment of like, this is so cool that even the god of coolness goes, dang, that's pretty cool. And so that's when he grants you this blessing. Another important thing to know about exaltations, they can never be undone. There's no take-backsies. So no matter what you do after that, you could be an absolute awful person, and the sun could not go, oh man, you're not, man, Morella, stop like genociding people. Stop sending people to Brazil. You can't do that. Brazil doesn't even exist in creation. He can't do that. You'd have to kill the host in order to not, to get the exaltation back. There's the lunars, chosen of the moon. The thing with the moon is that in Exalted, the moon is effectively a shapeshifter. And so much like the moon, they too can shapeshift. The older and more powerful you get, this starts to go from I can shapeshift into a cow to I am now Cowzilla, destroyer of barns and cities. But we'll get to that later. And the maidens, the 5 heads of the stellar bureaucracy, and yes, it's important to know that there actually is a stellar bureaucracy, because this is largely based off of Chinese myth. And much like Chinese myth, there's this giant administrative bureaucracy that effectively governs all of reality. And so the stars basically have people that are quote unquote destined to be exalted. It's not terribly clear what the criteria of that is. I honestly don't really get much of the sidereal bureaucracy. Noodle, why don't you speak on that? These are your peeps after all.
So the sidereals are essentially so the five great stars of creation, which are based off of the planets Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. They govern essentially cause and effect in all of creation, and they run the laws of physics and make sure that everything happens using a machine called the Loom of Fate. And so the sidereals, which are they're chosen, there are 100 of them, 20 for each of the 5 Maidens of Destiny, govern these different houses. The houses of journeys, which is how things get from one point to another. The house of serenity, which is how things come together and coexist. The house of battles, which is how things go apart and go into conflict. The house of secrets, which governs knowledge and information and facts. And the house of endings, which is how everything kind of comes to end, the general concept of entropy. And so, the sidereals, these chosen, there is a kind of like the other Exalted, there is a moment that causes the exaltation, but that is something that was kind of always supposed to happen. It was just kind of like fate and destiny moves them to getting into this point and this moment of awesomeness that causes them to exalt and come into their own and come into their destiny.
You kind of have the Starlight Express moment where you're like, I have the power. Yes, Rusty, you are the one. Whoa! And then you're backflipping with clouds and kicking people into ducks.
Yeah, and then you get your magic mansion up in heaven that's, the size of a small city but you gotta, file all of your TPS reports, otherwise you might get it taken away. And your salary, which is paid literally out of magical chocolate coins that everybody wants, well, you'll lose that too.
Yes, and so unlike the Lunars, who basically are the bestest at everything forever, or the Solars, who are the best at everything forever, Lunars who can basically transform and have shape-shifting abilities, sidereals have the abilities to mess around with cause and effect. And you go, that's really dumb. Actually, it is really scary. And on top of that, the fact that you imagine, if you will, all the pettiness and the annoying, tyrannic powers of middle management that you have ever interacted with? That is sidereals, because they are the middle managers of reality.
One of the most powerful and in some ways annoying to storytellers, and I particularly like interesting powers that's very low in the sidereal tree when it comes to larceny and their thieving and manipulation. It's called avoiding the truth technique. And this power gives people the supernatural compulsion that whatever you are saying is in fact a lie. And so they will believe that whatever you're saying is a lie. Which can be you can manipulate people so much just by telling them the truth of things and making them believe that it's a lie.
Yeah, one of your characters actually did that to a bunch of little children. They were like, yeah, you guys aren't actually legendary heroes. At which point Noodle's character goes, no, we're not legendary heroes. We're just ordinary, passing by a bunch of vagabonds. At which point they're like, no, you're lying. You are legendary heroes. Hail the conquering heroes. And at which point they basically became cultists of Noodle's character and his chosen avatar, Reggie the Rhino. It's a long story. It's a long story.
One of our characters wanted to make a war cult to this one minor god who was a god of rhinoceroses named Reggie the Rhino. Very long story. And yeah, these kids didn't want to join. And yeah, part of getting him to help us was to convince these kids to join. So yeah, I turned these kids into a bunch of child soldiers. Yeah.
That was a fun game. I mean, right up there with you guys are trapped in a bone cage. Okay, how big are the bars? I don't know, like 8 inches. Oh, okay, so I transform into a coral snake. No. All right, so the necromancer that just conjured the bone cage, he's right there, right? Yeah. So I'm gonna go up to him. No. And I'm gonna bite him. No. Now he has to resist against my coral snake venom. No. Now he's failed, and now he is lying on his back, dying of venom because he has really low stamina. And you are now just biting him, and you're biting him again. Great. And now he's dead. You just killed a man with your coral snake venom. I hate you. I hate Lunar so much. And I'm just laughing.
You remember how last episode we were talking about Attack on Titan and Terraform Mars? I'm just saying, playing a Lunar is a lot like being in Terraform Mars.
Yeah, there's a reason why in my Mr. Welch's I am not allowed to list. It literally is, you have to write out all of your Lunar battle forms. All of them.
Guys, did you know there's this one particular species of wasp? And Dietaku just goes, oh boy, here we go.
To be perfectly honest, I haven't actually really ever gone into insects because the issue with Lunar shape-changing is if it's smaller than a mouse, you need an additional charm in order to assume those forms. So at most, I want to say I did a small venomous snake. But that being said, oh baby, you could do some crazy things with insects.
Yes. Yes, you can. Being an insectaboo myself, I'm just like, Dietaku, did you know that there's a very particular type of wasp that parasitizes tarantulas several times, like I'm talking orders of magnitude larger than itself, and that there are parasitic wasps who prey exclusively on the larvae of the parasitic wasps that prey on the spiders? Nature is scary, and it hates you.
Nature is horrifying. But anyways, getting back to our point, there are other Exalted, but we're going to have to go into kind of the history of the world before we go into this. Because to explain what the Abyssals and the Infernals are, it's not going to really make sense until you understand who their patrons are. So, yes. So anyways, now that they have the gods have their chosen. Oh, and by the way, there's also the youngest of the Titans, Gaia, who is literally she literally is creation herself. Luna seduced her. Apparently she was wearing a really cool set of pants. Thanks, Scroll Swallow Darkness. This is the content that I really enjoyed out of Exalted. That she had cool pants was the reason why Guy was like, whoa, yeah, okay, I'm going to betray my older brother. You have really cool pants. It's like that one Leather Boy album, and no one's going to get this. So, yes, there's this gigantic battle that goes across reality. According to what the actual first age supplements say, reality may have been broken, like, irrevocably by this. We don't really know what went down, but apparently it was bad. It was bad. But because of this, eventually the gods win. The gods and the chosen win. And so they proceed to kill half of the Titans, and the other half they proceed to maim and then proceed to put inside the king of the Titans as a prison. and basically go, okay, you guys are stuck in there. All right, bye. And they then proceed to go, all right, well, all right, Chosen, you have defeated the Titans. You have done as we asked. We are going to go to heaven now. And yeah, you guys take care of things here on creation. Yeah. And the actual celestials incarnate, the main gods, proceed to just disappear to heaven. They're still around, but they are like occupied in their own things, and they have not really interacted at all in creations. They are so out of touch, it is crazy. And here's the thing. This is
They have
important too.
playing the quote games of divinity, which is supposed to be the super addictive game. That all we know about it is that it involves taking turns, and it's just very addictive. There's some sort of score going on because what time of day it is in heaven corresponds to whatever celestial incarnate is ahead in the games of divinity. And so a lot of people just assume that it's like, wow.
So so the few times that we've gone to heaven, it's been really interesting because then we're like, why has it been nighttime for like 3 weeks? And they're like, oh yeah, it's because Luna is in charge. She's winning. Like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, this is just how it is over in heaven. So remember when I said that, half the Titans were just straight up executed? This is important because here's the thing. In Exalted, when a human being dies, they enter what is known as the cycle of reincarnation. Remember, this is largely based off of Chinese mythology. So your soul goes in, your body dies, at which point then you're basically scrubbed, you pop out, and you're reborn into a new body. Bing, bang, boom. Titans are too big. Their souls are too large for this. And so where do they go? They basically just collapse into the depths of creation. And as their souls are collapsing, they literally turn to the Exalted and go, at some point, sometime in the future, you are going to orchestrate your own doom. We don't know when, we don't know how, and it doesn't really matter. But you are going to kill yourselves. All of you. None of you are going to come out of this with the happiest ending. You are all doomed. And this is what is known as the Great Curse. This is important because nothing can undo this. This is irrevocably an aspect of the setting in that no matter what the Exalted do, they are always cursed with this tragic, ironic fate. And this is important too because depending on what Exalted you are, the Great Curse will affect you in different ways. For the Solars, this basically makes you go mad with power. Because you are so incredibly powerful, well, clearly you have the best intentions. They said I was mad after all. They said I was mad. They said that I could not constantly just push the envelope and create the most powerfulest bomb. No. For the Lunars, basically this just means that you eventually are going to become so, you effectively are going to lose sense of what it is to be human. Because you are just constantly transforming into other things. And you are going to, eventually just become, Godzilla. What is the matter with, stomping on people when you're Godzilla? You literally are Godzilla. And the most insidious thing with the sidereals is they get, if I remember right, they start to become paranoid. Increasingly paranoid. Because the beautiful thing about the sidereals is that they can basically have a forecast of what's in the future. They can read the loom of creation, basically the weave of reality, and they can see a portent of what is to come. And the older and more powerful they are, the better this portent is. But here's the catcher. The older and more powerful they are, the deeper the claws of their great curse is. And so they become more paranoid. Am I on base there, Noodle?
You are on base there, but I would say that they have a different and more meaningful mechanically issue because they actually have 2 limit tracks. One for the Great Curse and then one for basically reality itself punching you in the dick.
I was gonna go more into that with the usurpation because we'd have to explain like the fact that they literally broke the constellation of the mask and all that.
So yeah, the sidereals basically were kind of put into a similar position to the way that the gods were running the Loom of Fate, that they were essentially cleaning up the messes that the Solars and the Lunars had. And so they all got together one day and they cast a prediction of the future. And these predictions ultimately came down to 3 things. They're the vision of gold, the vision of bronze, and the vision of black. And so the vision of black was essentially, if you guys do nothing, if you let this current state of affairs go, then all of creation will be destroyed. The vision of gold was, well, if you convince the Solars to kind of moderate themselves and mediate themselves, then you'll be able to create a true golden age that will last for all of eternity, and all of these excesses will be solved. But the vision of gold was also kind of precarious, that if you failed in convincing them, then that could also lead to the vision of black. But then there was the vision of bronze, which was, well, if you kill all the Solars and the Lunars and you lock them away, you lock their essences away so they can't reincarnate anymore, and then creation will be diminished, but it will return. It will continue. And so the sidereals kind of had their own little conflict struggling about this, and a lot of the people got into the faction that viewed the vision of bronze as the best way to go. And a lot of them killed the people who most vehemently supported the vision of gold so that they couldn't warn the Solars about things. And then they went and they started recruiting the Dragon-Blooded, which are the weakest of the Exalted.
Yeah, we haven't talked about the Dragon-Blooded yet.
Yes, the Dragon-Blooded are the weakest Exalted, but they are also, in some ways, the strongest, because while each one is physically weaker and none of them has their powers anywhere near as potent as any of the other Exalted, they are not tied to direct exaltations. There are a set number of Solars and Lunars and Sidereals. There can never be more than 300 Solars. There can never be more than 300 Lunars. There can never be more than 100 Sidereals. That is, they are, each one of those is set. The Terrestrials, the Dragon-Blooded, they pass their exaltation down through their bloodline. So each of the kids that a Terrestrial has a chance of exalting themselves. And it's all based off of the chance is based off of, are the other parents exalted, how many like parents and their grandparents and all that stuff there are. You can, supposedly it was always 100% so long as they were only like the original Dragon-Blooded, as long as all of their kids would be Dragon-Blooded, so long as they only married other Dragon-Bloods, but then they started marrying and having kids with regular mortals, and that's what caused the blood to be diluted. But now theoretically anybody has a minute, tiny little chance of exalting as a Dragon-Blood. These guys have elemental powers. a lot of people reduce that to Avatar: The Last Airbender stuff, which is a very narrow-minded view of looking at things. But I mean, if you want to be very fast and dirty and quick, then yeah, they're Sentai soldiers with elemental theme powers. That's kind of their jam.
And in the current age, you can consider them basically, imagine, if you will, the Fire Nation from Avatar: The Last Airbender, but a matriarchy, a rabid matriarchy, and they want to conquer the rest of creation.
Yes.
Yeah. Welcome to the realm, kiddos.
So the Sidereals convinced the Dragon Bloods to rise up to kill all of the Solars in this like great festival that happened every calibration, which is this 5 days outside of the year these 5 days of total darkness outside of the year that happens every year in Exalted, that all the Solars would get together and have a great party. And they killed them all, or killed a vast majority of them. And they had created this magical artifact known as the Jade Prison, which instead of their essences then going out to exalt other people, they got caught in this magical box. And they took the box and they dumped it into the deepest, darkest pits of the ocean, hoping that nobody would ever find it.
Here's the thing. When they killed these incredibly ancient people, their connection to the world resonated. You know those dead titans we talked about earlier? Them dying basically meant they dropped into the depths of creation, right? Well, while they did that, so they basically created their own shadow creation in so doing.
They created the underworld, which is a very Greco-Roman way of viewing the underworld, and that it's this realm of kind of shadow, and everything's just kind of dark and dull, weird mirror reflection creation.
And so, but prior to this, actually, they noticed that, like, if you had great attachments to, like, the living, some people would come back as these effectively, like, shadows of themselves. And so the Titans, these dead Titans, the Neverborn, half mad and, basically just wishing everything would die, sees these 13 incredibly attached people and went, hey, so you have one of two options. You can either drop into oblivion and die forever, or you want to kill the rest of creation? Join us and we will take the shattered remnants of our own souls, shove them into your soul body, and you will gain the power you need to kill the rest of creation. And they went, okay, so now you have 13 super ghosts, the Death Lords, who were created through the hubris of the Sidereals, all in the Sidereals, attempts to save creation.
Yep. And so the Sidereals then worked with the Dragon-Blooded to create this empire, the Dragon-Blooded Shogunate, which lasted for an indeterminate amount of time until one of the Death Lords released what's called the Great Contagion. Basically this disease that kills 90% of everything. Which
the silver, all the Dowager.
Yes, which, as far as a plan to kill everything goes, 90% of all of everything, that's pretty good. And then that massively weakened everything. That caused massive societal collapse.
Was it the first Forsaken Lion who went to Prince Baelor, or am I thinking of somebody else?
Yes, it was. But then this other Death Lord, the first and Forsaken Lion, who is the most warlike and militarily politically powerful of them, went to the leader of the fairies, Prince Baelor, and which the fairies exist in the endless chaos beyond the rim of the world. And when
You have to.
guys, you know, all of creation is massively weakened because 90% of everybody is dead. Maybe you should invade. And the fairies are like, you know what? You're right. We will invade and return all of creation to the endless chaos that came before. And so they did. Unfortunately, the essence of the underworld, which is of stagnation and decay and entropy, is kind of inimical to the essence of the wild, the endless chaos and possibilities. And so the massive influx of wild essence and wild magic into creation with the fairies invading actually mutated the Great Contagion and basically turned it into a super black plague, which made it so that it didn't, in fact, wipe out all of the life in the world. Whoops.
You also have to understand the Dowager, the Death Lord that conjured the original Great Contagion out of this well of infinity called the Well of Odor, which is at the... It's off to one side of the underworld. It's a wild place. She's so butthurt at this. She's basically not done anything since in like the 80 years between then and now.
800 years.
Oh, yes. But yeah, she's so angry still that her plan didn't work that she's just still kind of sulking.
Yes. And so this one low-ranking dragon-blooded officer eventually works her way into this last, this like central defense mechanism that the Solars had built in the depths of the First Age, and activates this great weapon called the Sword of Creation. We're not entirely sure what it is. We're not entirely sure what it does, but we know that it's powered by the very essence of the pole of Earth, which is the kind of linchpin at the center of creation. It is the pole that is the axis upon which the rest of the world sits. And was able to use that to nuke all the fairies and force them out of creation. And so she basically said, hey, I'm the Shogun now. And a bunch of people were like, okay, cool, we'll sign up and we'll join you. And a bunch of other people were like, fuck no, we're not going to listen to you. And unfortunately, the Imperial masses couldn't nuke them all and without destroying what she had. And so she kind of got into this geographically challenged Mexican standoff with a bunch of these people and contented herself with ruling this giant, I want to say island, but it really is more of a like continent. The whole thing's the size of Asia, in the middle of creation, called the Blessed Isle.
Dear Pretender, we have sky battleships, and you can't hit us. Love, Luke Shy. Dear Luke Shy, I will nuke your sky battleships if you bring us near us.
And so that was the beginning of the quote current calendar, Realm Year 1, when the Scarlet Empress took the throne and declared the Scarlet Empire and declared the realm.
And much like Warhammer, we don't know the Scarlet Empress's actual name. She's just always known as the Scarlet Empress.
She's had a bunch of kids. These kids have had a bunch of kids. They have their own like great houses and great dynasties, and the Scarlet Empire can all reach their lineage one way or the other back to her, either as the great houses are all either named after her children or her former consorts. It's all ultimately, like all political power ultimately funnels back to her. So then there was this thing. In Realm Year 767, that the imprisoned Titans, the now they're called the Yozis, came up with a plan to break free. And so, but they couldn't directly interact with creation anymore. And so they went to the Death Lords, and they went to the Neverborn, and they went, hey, we found the location of the solar essences, the solar exaltations, where they're locked up. The thing is we can't get to it. We can't like affect anything there. But we can tell you where it is and how to catch it and how to catch the exaltations when you break it. And all we want, there's 300 of them. All we want is 50 of them once you do it. And the Neverborn and the Death Lord said, deal. So the Yozis told the Neverborn and the Death Lords where it was, and the Death Lords created this giant undead Leviathan thing to go down to the bottom of the ocean and crack it open and catch all of the solar essences. But, I guess undead giant crab whales are not a precision instrument because it cracked the Jade Prison a bit harder than intended. And so instead of just kind of cracking it so that a trickle of them could escape, it basically shattered it, and they had to grab as many of them as it can. And it only caught about half of the solar essences, about 150. So 50 of them go to the primordials, the Yozis as intended, and the Neverborn keep the other 100 and get them divvied out between them. The 100 or so that the Neverborn have, they put into these devices called the Monstrances of Celestial Partition, which are these weird coffin things that they put it in, and it basically inverts the powers of the Solar Exalted into abyssals. So whereas the Solars make themselves to be awesome, amazing, superhumans, the Abyssals make everyone, just kind of drag everyone else down to their level, I guess.
They are, instead of being the blessed sons of creation, they are the black sons of the underworld. They have the superlative powers of the Solars, but instead of being powered by light and life, they are literally powered by death.
They can only regain their magical power in creation either by bringing these nuggets, essentially, of underworld power with them, or by drinking blood.
And you don't want to do that first one because much like we said, Sidereals can, look at the weave of creation, the very fabric of destiny, and suss things out. Things like that tend to get their notice, and so
because they start messing with fate, and so the Sidereals don't necessarily know that you're there, but they know that there's something there that keeps messing with fate and throwing everything off, and we'd really rather not like the extra paperwork that you keep causing, please and thank you. And so we're gonna get together a death squad of literal dragons and Power Rangers and magical power armor, and we're gonna go and gank whatever over there, please and thank you.
Or even worse, you'll encounter one single, old man with a teacup.
Oh God,
that's probably the worst that you'll encounter. And all while this is happening, and I realize when you mentioned this is only the Solars, it's important to know that only the Solars were captured in the Jade Prison. The Lunars, being the slippery devils that they are, literally, in classic JonTron fashion, yeah, we just left. They just shape-shifted and left, and they escaped into the wild. The issue being is that living in, eternal, ever mutable, changing chaos, it does things to a fellow, does things to
Especially when your power is all about, changing yourself and relies on a very strong sense of self to be able to return to that. And yeah.
So
they started getting weird mutations and stuff, and their exaltation started kind of breaking and unraveling.
So they realized that they actually needed some kind of way of basically pinning down their humanity. And the way they figured out after thousands of years of experimentation was, okay, so here's what we do. You nail down your exaltation, the blessing of exaltation to the person by getting some sweet tattoos. We get the sweet tattoos, and that'll basically allow you to retain your sense of self, and you won't basically just immediately go mad and just fade into the insanity of your bestial nature.
Well, because the tattoos are made out of magical moon silver. They're magical, like semi-solid, semi-liquid metal essence of the moon, and it literally is like spelling out your heroic epic on your skin, and that's like reinforcing to yourself who you are.
So yes, and so the important thing here is for modern lunars, basically, if you're using your full power, and as a solar, this basically gives you like a Dragon Ball Z aura. For lunars, this basically makes you like Maui out of Moana. You literally are just like covered in ink, but it's like shiny, glowy, cool silver ink. And yeah, much like Maui, it will like shift and like warp around you. I believe there are actual charms to allow it to like do various things like become weapons and stuff, but you kind of have to buy into that. So it's not just a thing that they do.
Sweet tribal tats, bruh. Just thinking about getting some myself, like a pin and a dragon. Keep it subtle.
No, King, no, Arthur, you're a soldier. You're not allowed to get, moonsilver tattoos, bro. Mom would say no. She would poo-poo you and she'd go to your room and think about what you've done.
Aww.
But anyways, so now that that's happened, I guess we can talk about the Infernals. Is it now time to talk about the Green Sun Princes?
Yes, it is now time to talk about ya boys.
All right. So anyways, so remember how we talked about the fact that there were the surrendered Titans, who had basically been shoved into their king and were basically just stewing in, anger and in themselves for all eternity. Well, basically they now had the powers of the Solars and basically still being alive and also actually having an understanding of what the exaltations are. They effectively rewrote them, so no longer just being, dark Solars. They basically gained the powers of their representative Titans. There were supposed to be at least 10 of them, but they only ever really went into 6. Thank you.
There are 23 Yozis, 23 Titans that surrendered. Only 5 of them started this whole like plot, and then a couple more of them joined later. The plot afterwards, yeah.
I would argue Adorjan didn't actually join because she doesn't have enough of a sense of reason to actually agree to join. That's neither here nor there.
But her big brother is literally the king, and her big sister is the lawmaker, and they were 2 of the chief architects, so I guess they kind of agreed on her behalf and then convinced her.
Yeah, I suppose having literal, actual, murder Joker win would, be a good thing to have on your team. So.
Yeah.
So basically, each of the Titans in the diminished Titans in this prison are effectively broken versions of themselves. remember when I said that they were maimed? They literally were effectively lobotomized. They had major component souls, the pieces, killed, and that altered their very nature. Imagine, if you will, if think of it like this. Imagine if you, little Jimmy, had a hand cut off, but then suddenly you were no longer just you. You were not Jimmy. You were then Fernando, and you had always been Fernando. And oh, by the way, you now speak Russian, and you suddenly love piano, and you are a classically trained pianist. That's effectively how it is. They suddenly gain.
But why am I named Fernando if I speak Russian, and how am I a pianist if I only have one hand?
You're... Shut up, Fernando. But I mean, that's basically the way it would be. So, for instance, Theon, king of the Titans, then became the Lord of Brass, Malpheus, who his entire thing is that he is now a endless, infinite city of just brass and hatred, and that's his thing. He is brass and he is hatred, and his heart is literally nuclear hellfire. And that's actually where the epithets Green Sun Princess come from, because instead of being the Black Sons of the Underworld or the, Golden Sons of Creation, you are now nuclear hell sons of basically the city of punishment and hatred. And yeah, so I'm not going to go into all of the Titans, because as cool as the Titan as the Yozis are, we would basically be here for like another 2 hours if I had to go into Isidoros, the bull that twists the skies. There's Oramus, the dragon beyond the world. There's the Ebon dragon, the shadow of creation. There's Kimberry, literally Joan Crawford, is a giant poisonous ocean that hates you, but she really, really loves you, and she wants you to get better, but she's going to have to poison the snot out of you for you to get better first. Or Otterjohn.
There's Otterjohn, the magical Joker tsundere wind, who really loves you, but she shows it.
Not tsundere, yandere. She is literally Joker, yandere, murder.
Yandere, sorry. Yes, so yes. She loves you, but she'll love you by stabbing you in the face until you die, so that you can't love anybody else.
I may have constantly had a character who is a chosen of Otterjohn show up, and every single time she shows up, it's always really funny, because it's, oh god, not her again, she's gonna stab me. And then she does.
And she always picked whatever person in the circle was like the most upstanding, like the most morally upstanding person, who usually decided that they were just gonna like, nope, I'm not having anything to do with this, and like pimp smacked her. And in one case, like literally ran her through with a greatsword, in which case she went, I'm your waifu now, and then like ran off and decided that, yeah, she was just going to make that person's life a living hell.
The funny thing about Otterjohn is that her entire thing is being a literal hurricane. She is as fast as she wants to be, and that basically makes it, effectively, her chosen are like Sonic the Hedgehog, but full of yandere. You're welcome for that.
Fan artists, you know what to do.
And so, oh, by the way, when all of this is happening, so, the Solars are coming back. And, oh, by the way, another one of the Death Lords proceeds to go, hey, there's this dying Godzilla here in the underworld. It'd be really cool, Godzilla. What's that? If you carried my fortress on your back, and we're gonna destroy this one town right next to Lukeshai. Okay. And they did. And they actually conquered this made
They conquered this major trade city, and in so doing, literally punched a hole between the underworld and creation, and creating what's called Shadowlands, and created this like gigantic country-sized basically place where both the underworld and creation exist at the same time.
yeah. Yeah, you can consider it akin to the Eye of Terror. It's a major hub of death activities, and the Mask of Winters basically is using it as a way to not only harass Luke-Shai, but basically to slowly swallow up the rest of creation into the underworld. That's his game plan. Each one of the Death Lords basically has very wildly different ideas for how they're going to bring about the ultimate death of creation. From the Bishop of Chalcedony Thurible being like, it's okay, guys. I'm going to, reason reality to die. And he just makes poems, endless poems where people just go, oh, God, and they kill themselves after reading them.
He's basically... So the writers of Exalted are very, very publicly fedora tipping Reddit atheists. So he's basically...
Except, well, they are now. They used to not be. Hello, Dr. Jenna Moran. I
Yes,
still am a huge fan.
But yes, this one, so basically the bishop is like, hey, what if we take, the Catholic Church, but give it Nietzsche philosophy so that everybody just becomes massive nihilists and decide to kill themselves. And so I'm going to create an entire religion based around everyone just becoming a Nietzschean nihilist and just offing themselves.
There is a level of irony here, which I believe is ruining my plot compass. My plot compass is off thanks to this level of irony. Thanks, Holden.
Yeah.
So,
it's very obvious when one is a Catholic, like, me and the other Pooghym to notice all of the things which, like, not specifically just, like, Christianity that they hate and they, like, but the Death Lords use a lot of very, very Catholic imagery and a lot of very, very Catholic terminology in their things, and it's kind of hard to not notice that.
So, anyways, yeah, we should, I suppose, establish now that that's effectively the way that the modern world is in creation. You are surrounded on all sides in creation. You have a series of native religions which effectively say that solars are literally devils that possess people in order to ensure that a hidden band of celestial middle managers can continue to secretly manage creation. All the while, there are literally legions of ghosts that want to drag you into the underworld to die forever. Meanwhile,
May or may not have been you in a past life.
Meanwhile, there are literally infinite horde of hatred-fueled demons that wish to twist creation into a hellish facsimile of same in order
And
to
they hate you personally.
quote unquote save it. Yes. Oh, by the way, hell is so awful that the lesser demons will literally escape to creation and go, please, I will give you miracles and power if I do not have to go back there. That is how awful hell is.
Yeah, the magic spells to summon first circle demons, it literally just goes, you can just summon these guys and have them do something forever, and the magic isn't getting them out. The magic is just like having a contract with them to do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm. That's literally it. A lot of magic in Exalted is just legalese. even to the point that one of the aspects of being a solar, one of the castes is effectively just being a interstellar supernal lawyer. And you literally, what's your unique caste ability? I have diplomatic immunity. They can't touch me because I got diplomatic immunity. Yeah, so as long as you're not openly, as long as you're not openly, waging war against somebody, they're like, I can't attack that Eclipse case. Why not? It's got diplomatic immunity. Solar deliberative might kill us. They don't exist anymore.
Solar deliberative haven't existed for 2,200 years.
You know what? You say that now, but you weren't the one who was kicked by a war strider 1,500 years ago. So, oh yeah, by the way, there are also giant mechs. There's super weapons called war striders. If you're wondering what the war strider boots is that we mentioned at the very beginning, imagine, if you will, a Gundam. A Gundam literally made out of entirely magical materials. And oh, by the way, the Gundam can learn magic charms too, because the Gundam's effectively has its own will. So you can literally thanks Gundam. And the Gundam's like, no problem, beep boop.
Because every single thing in creation has its own little god. And the more powerful or significant the thing is, the more powerful or significant that little god can become. And that's kind of how you end up with some of the terrestrial gods that you can interact with in creation. Like, okay, so this pebble has a little god, and I'm not really going to be able to interact with that at all in any meaningful way, shape, or form. But a mountain god could be actual person, is an actual person in and of their own right, and could have some magical powers and be able to affect the mountain and stuff. And so they awaken the little gods of the war striders, and those start learning magical powers and essentially become your robots.
I have seen war striders that have been basically Optimus Prime or another Transformer. I have also seen war striders that are effectively Getarobo. War striders are pretty cool. Inevitably, it seems like every single time Noodle, Snek, and I play, we inevitably just are like, at which point we're fighting, Godzilla, and we have war striders. But that's because they're cool. So, yeah.
And inevitably, there always ends up to be war striders based off of King Geiner and robots in King Geiner. Always,
that's
inevitably.
King Geiner is awesome. And also, the Dominator is... I mean, it's such a fundamentally interesting idea. It's literally, Kerbo, the shape-shifting robot.
King Geiner review when?
That's a good question. When is the King Geiner review?
Did that, but
I know it's part of the mythical second season.
Okay. If the people at home have made it an hour and 20 minutes into this debacle, let me go ahead and break it down for you. Season 2 does exist. Cog is sending to me what was finished, and it will be going live soon-ish.
Trademark.
It's
trademark, copyright.
It does exist, though. It is real.
So, anyways,
the second season does in fact exist. It is where Noodle made his Tomo Bro review debut, 4 years ago at time of recording.
Mm-hmm. But anyways, you might ask yourself, Fernando, the Russian pianist that you are, gee, Dietaku, this is great and all, but why are we learning all these things? And the answer is because, ladies, gentlemen, one-handed Russian pianists, we are going to be playing an Exalted game. And so we want to give you an understanding of what the setting is, what you're in for. Because some of us have their characters done. And others of us are Noodle, who does not have his character done. But it's okay, because I inevitably know he's going to be playing, because that's what he plays.
I'm busy.
Oh,
The Demon Queen tied me down and told me that, I was going to get married to her, okay?
oh, kinky.
Didn't know you were into that, but okay.
And we are
Not
all happy.
literally, just
We are all
metaphorically.
happy for her. Congratulations, Demon Queen.
May your reign
Not literally, just
continue forever and ever.
her will is eternal. Alicia Elfrieden be praised.
Yes. But anyways, so we are going to be playing that, and so yeah, look forward to that. Whether or not we play it here, actually, or if we just give after action reports, and we play on a super secret, play by post, we'll figure that out later when we actually know what our characters are going to be. So yeah, look forward to it. It will happen. And yeah, that's about all I got.
Well, that's a decent enough summary.
An hour and 20 minutes later. If you guys want to hear some more about Exalted shenanigans, there is this convenient little playlist called the Tabletop RPG Brothers, where Dietaku and I recount some of our previous Circle's exploits, and you guys can get a primer for some of the shenanigans that you're likely to run into in the future.
Yeah, I mean, we could go into more. We could go into some of the... we could have gone into some of the lunar kingdoms. We could have gone into the various other powers in creation. Like everyone's favorite, air Vikings, the Haslan Confederation. But
could have talked more about Luke Shy.
That would have been like another 2 hours of like, so anyways, the Empress did a thing, and then people were like, no, I'd rather not. And she's like, eh. So
we could have talked about the fairies and gone into the weird, fallen down the strange rabbit hole that is Jenna Moran's imagination. Jenna, if you're listening, we love your work, but seriously, seek psychiatric help.
I don't think she needs to seek psychiatric help. I just feel like she has between this and Nobilis and the Chuni's wish-granting engine, I get the sense that she has a very definite sense of what she wants out of role-playing, and it's not really something that Exalted can really accomplish, at least, which is probably the reason why everyone looks at Graceful Wicked Masks and goes, hey, yo, what the heck? And,
what the fuck is that? I love it. I love all of her systems. They're amazing. And I love her world building, but Jesus Christ, those things are not mechanically well put together. Let's just put it like that.
But where else could I wield a Godzilla literally made my bravery?
This is true. Where else could you do that?
Nowhere.
So, and that's why one should always learn about your Hindu mythology.
No one's going to get that. So, no. Yeah. Do you have anything else there, Professor?
No, I mean, you guys were kind of more of the professors on this particular topic. But I will say, Exalted is a fun and engaging system. It's also a very player-hostile system. The first time you start making your character, you're going to look at this book and go, what the actual crap is happening to me right now, and why does it feel like a fever dream? That's a normal experience, and you do not need medical assistance.
The issue is the fact that, honestly, I guess we can go into it in our very first, when we actually start, like, playing
the game. Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming to my Dietaku talk. And may the power of the sun and the moon and the stars and the other powers which we are present, but we didn't go into because, holy crap, who cares about Autochtonia? Bless you. Excelsior! Whoop-ah!
The sun shall rise again tomorrow.
That too.
And we will see all of you guys next time.